Hello, students. In our last English class, we have learned that Arthur Rimbaud's poem, Asleep in the Valley, does echo and resonate the message of war's huge impact on the precious human life, unmasking the futility and meaninglessness of the same as far as the placement of the flowers, the stream, the mountain top, the humming insects, the sunlight upon the bosom of nature, and their inner bondage with the mellowing music of life and its minute delicate aspects, absorbed with the spirit of gaiety and festivity. The poet depicts a green valley surrounded by high mountains. A stream flows softly as if it spreads silver ribbons on the grass. As the sun shines from the top of the mountain, the sun rays fill up the valley with its brightness. A young soldier sleeps open mouthed with a pillow made of ferns. He appears to be taking a nap, and the bushes and the plants of the valley prepares his green bed, which has absorbed the energy of the sun. The feet of the soldier are among the flowers which grow abundantly in the valley. In his sleep, he appears pale, but smiling innocently like a child. Nature lovingly cradles him and provides the necessary heat to keep him warm and protect him from the cold. The buzzing sound of insects does not affect his sleep. He appears to be sleeping peacefully with his one hand on his chest. However, when viewed closely, it is seen that there are two deep bullet wounds in the side of his body. Now, let's discuss how relevant and significant the title of the poem is. Arthur Rimbaud has entitled his poem as Asleep in the Valley, and one has to be both critical and simplistic in trying to assess its significance. As far as the philosophic introspection of the poem, its values and apprehensions, its relevance in the incalculating freshness and vitality to something deadly and destructive with a gentle touch, a healing touch of love and light, of flower and green amidst the hollows that the sparkling sunrays coming from the mountain tops are supposed to fill up is concerned. The soldier described in the text died at a very young age due to some horrible exchanges of bullets indicated and hinted through the expression in his side there are two red holes. No humming insects can disturb him any more. This is to say, no quarrel, no conflicting soldiers can do anything more to him, for he is beyond the grasp of this cruel force in the form of the opponent army camp. His smile resembles very much that of an infant smile, free from guile and complex thinking. The poet wants nature to keep the dead soldier warm. Ironically, though, as no dead man from realistic point of view can be kept warm, in that he is beyond the equation of blood circulation or body temperature. Even the flowers covering up the feet of the soldier as if are airing the aesthetic protest against the brutal warmongers who are responsible in creating this futile war, which is both useless and unethical, as one cannot have the capacity to give the dialectics of life to one person. One simply doesn't have any right to snatch it from anybody in that life is precious. Nay, it is the most precious gift of the Almighty. That is to say, a man transcends this world of mortality through sleep and ventures forward to that world hereafter through the gate of death, forgetting all that had taken place in this temporary world. Similarly, the soldier now, with his one hand on his breast and feet among the flowers, stands asleep in the valley, placed between the mountains and nothing in this world. No beauty or sorrow, no flower or stream, no green or mountain can break his sleep. He is on his way to that world wherefrom nobody ever returns. The valley seems to be the valley of death, where the dead young soldier simply do coexist with the cruel march of destiny, as two bullets pierced straight his sides and brought a premature and tragic end to his life. Just like the infant, he gives us a divine innocent smile which forces us to remind our cruelty and foolishness in our brutal attempt to snatch away the lamp of love, life, and light from someone who was destined to lead an innocent, carefree life full of smiles and hopes, far away from this cold, deadly touch of death. Hence, the title throws ample light on the poet's vision about war's cruel impact on life, and therefore it stands so convincingly valid and justified in more than one sense. Now, students, there are certain relevant points like the central idea, the theme, the futility of war, the beauty of life. There are certain points like this which I must discuss with you. And here, first let me start with the central idea of the poem. The central idea of Asleep in the Valley is the death of a young soldier as a result of war. The body of the soldier is lying in a valley, is bursting with life. This accounts for the fact that even amidst death, life surrounds us. However, it can also mean that although life is beautiful and all around us, death is inevitable and sudden. Thus, the aim of life should be to embrace life. This poem also resounds his libertine views, as he did not believe in living, coping up with the narrow ideologies and beliefs. Now, let us discuss the themes of Asleep in the Valley. Sleep as death, death and sleep are used interchangeably in the poem. Death in this poem is represented as sleep. A sleep that is peaceful and never ending. Also, a sleep which is safe from all further harm. Just as Rimbaud believed in embracing life, he believed in accepting death. For him, death is sad, poignant even. But ultimately, death is a savior. It ends all suffering, and finally, it brings us the peace we long for. The next point to be discussed is the futility of war. As I've already told you that this poem is written in context of France's war with Russia. Rimbaud was in reality a soldier in the Dutch colonial army, and therefore Rimbaud had a direct experience of the cruelty and inhuman aspects of war. War, to Rimbaud, is nothing but the hellish dance of dead bodies. It tears apart the flame of love and affection from human heart. War extinguishes the lamp of life and love, reducing human values into the level of commodities. The soldier depicted in the poem is a glaring example of war's cruel impact on innocent man and woman. The soldier was very young, very tender. He was full of promises. Actually, these bloodthirsty warmongers create war between man and man, nation and nation, only to extract out their petty interest. It is not that the soldier killing another soldier, it should rather be studied as a man killing his fellow man without knowing as to why he is killing his fellow man. The infantile smile of the soldier, void of any guile, the sun-soaked bed, remind us about the insensity of wastage of human values. Thus, Rimbaud makes us anti-war stance quite clear through symbols, imageries, and poetic craftsmanship. No, this poem should not be called a war poem in the traditional context, as it never directly in that way deals with war. The poet gives us certain hints where the futility of war is stated clearly. So Rimbaud's poem Asleep in the Valley is not a war poem, though it criticizes war and its massive impact on innocent people. In spite of beautiful imagery of the poem, it is a poem about war and its futility. The protagonist of the poem is a young soldier who is shot dead, probably by soldiers against whom he was fighting. The humming insects is representative of the flies and insects that hover around corpses in the battlefield. Undercutting the image of a beautiful valley, we can see the destruction wrought by war. The poem is a gentle irony against the sacrifice of thousands of soldiers for the sake of war. In this poem, there is no glory in war. However, there is glory in life. And that is why war is futile and mindless. This poem deals with the beauty of life. Amidst the wrecks of war, the poet manages to appreciate life in the form of sunlight, water, flowers, insects, and the grass on which the soldier is lying. Everything in the poem seems to be alive. He even turns the death of the soldier into a peaceful sleep to present life as the ultimate beauty. The tone of the poem is slow and poignant but hopeful. The poet knows the tragedy well, but he feels in his heart that although the death of the soldier is devastating, he will finally attain the peace that is lasting and free from all pain and danger of war. Now, let me give you the critical estimate of the poem. Rimbaud, in his poem Asleep in the Valley, dwells upon war's huge impact upon the beauty of life, displaying it as unparalleled and musical, and thereby the poet stresses on the futility of war. Unconventional, vagabond, bohemian, French Rimbaud serves convincingly as an influence to modern literature and thereby is hailed as the father of symbolism. The spectacle of the war between France and Russia was alive in his memory, but still he manages to distance art from the upheavals of history. As a pioneer of poetic tradition, Rimbaud relates himself to the interplay of power, poetic and political, and resulting resistance to the convention of modern poetics. In Rimbaud's poetry, new meanings and values, new practices, new relationships are being created continually. The formal aesthetic model of lyrical poetry, with all its complex tensions between the literary and political hegemony of brilliantly articulated by Arthur Rimbaud in his poem Asleep in the Valley. A sense of unavoidable reality prevails as the poem comes to an end with the sudden realization and appreciation of the emergence of the cruel dictates of death over the sweet symphony and music of life. The poet presents to us a picture of a young soldier resting asleep peacefully on the floor of the valley, poised in between the mountains and rivers flowing beside it. Nothing in the form of the humming insects or the conflicting soldier can disturb him anymore and break his peaceful sleep. The long strands of silver on the stream, the oozing of the sun rays from the mountain tops, as if aiming to fill the hollow of the heart of the dead soldier with torrent of light. The pillow made of fern, the heavy undergrowth, the green-soaked bed, the feet of the soldier covered with flowers, the infantile smile of the soldier void of guile, the humming insect, all do contribute to creating a mellifluous poetic symphony which gets stirred with a sudden awakening that the soldier is in reality lying dead with two red holes in his side, possibly created by the bullets fixed at his body. The poem offers us a pictorial spectacle of nature that simply absorbs the futile arrogance of war, which snatches away from us the lamp of life, the echo of a sweet musing soul. In perspective of war, even the flowers are impregnated with the message of the cold touch of death, and the poet is prompt and quiet enough to ask nature to keep the cold body of the soldier warm, warm with its sparkling resonance created by free flowing torrents, streams, green grass, high mountains, etc. The dead soldier gives a smile, as if speaks to us about his complete involvement with serenity and musicality of nature. The smile cannot just simply have any guile. Death equates the living ones and those who are dead. The poem silently tells us as how life depicts its variety and throbbing stands ephemeral and transitory. The contrasting images, that of green mountain top in the earlier stanzas symbolic of life, and the two red holes right at the end of the poem symbolic of death, do create a note of coherence and orchestrated harmony. The poem may be assessed as a perfect lyric of Rimbaud uses the sonnet form. The poem has two stanzas of 4 lines each and two stanzas of 3 lines each. In contrast to this, the Italian sonnet, also known as the Petrarchan sonnet, has just got two divisions. The octave comprising of 8 lines and sestet consisting of 6 lines. The readers takes this picture perfect setting in which a young soldier blissfully sleeps. The readers experience a rude shock, though, when he realizes that this young soldier is a casualty of war. As it has been pointed to earlier on, Rimbaud, the poet, had first-hand experience of war and therefore he could fully understand and comprehend the futility of war. He was a soldier in the Dutch colonial army in 1876, and Rimbaud wrote the present poem in 1877, the year when France was at war with Russia. So, Rimbaud's poem Asleep in the Valley, both with its absorbing theme of war against the backdrop of nature and life's ephemerality, emerges out to be a convincing documentary of the late 19th century poetic diction and values. So, students, Asleep in the Valley by Arthur Rimbaud is a poem on war but with a different perspective. The poet has not glorified war in this poem, rather, he has showcased the futility of war. According to him, war is but an organized butchery of youth. Hope you all have thoroughly understood the poem. Thank you.